So I'd like to introduce the 325 panel, Corporate Supplier Diversity and Workforce Diversity. Jung, President of Procon Consulting, is the moderator of this panel. Take it away, Q.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I do want to welcome everyone to the Asian American Business Summit, obviously talking about a very important topic, corporate supplier diversity. And but before I begin, I just want to go over some housekeeping items. We have a 45-minute segment. I promise we'll be on time. A hard stop at 4:10. If any of you have some burning questions that you're thinking of, I want to encourage everyone to keep a mental note. I promise we will get to them at the end of our session. If you are dialed in online, I want to encourage you to submit them through the chat box. We have our friend Richie over there. He will be monitoring it. He will make sure that we will get to them at the end of our session. And lastly, I understand everyone should be on mute, but in the event that you are not on mute, I want to encourage you to be on mute if you're dialing online, except for the 3 panel members, because we do want to hear from you. Today, I am extremely honored to be part of this exciting event and be given this opportunity to moderate such an important topic that's on the minds of many corporate America. And this isn't just something that is happening in America, but a global topic that is important and globally speaking. And I'm also thrilled to be moderating and engaging in an important dialogue with 3 distinguished panel members. Welcome, welcome. And I do appreciate you guys giving your time. Obviously, you guys are all very busy and in the pandemic, and I know, Ingrid, you're dialing in from, I believe, where?
Frankfurt, in Germany.
Yes, and so we really appreciate you giving your time. I understand that it's very important. So with that, but before I introduce everyone here, I want to give a little background on how we got here. I think it was very important for the committee members here to invite 3 distinguished thought leaders, professionals from varying backgrounds that provides different points of view and perspective when it comes to supplier diversity. And while each of the panel members provides different perspectives, I'm getting a little feedback here, different perspectives, I do know that every one of the members here have one thing in common, and I'm looking at you guys because I have a screen right in front of you, and that is we all have a passion for supplier diversity. We believe that it's important to our society. We believe it's important to our economy, and with that, let's just get right through it. I want to first begin by introducing Ashley Bazzani. With PNC Financial Services. Ashley is a member of the PNC Supplier Diversity Team. Within the supply chain management umbrella, she supports PNC efforts to purchase products and services from small and diverse diverse-owned businesses. This includes developing and implementing strategy, building, growing supplier relationships, and metrics reporting. Secondly, we have here Yuri Cruz of Booz Allen. Yuri is a operations development lead within the small business office at Booz and responsible for promoting and providing tailored access to the small business office portfolio of services while providing compliance, mitigation, and teaming strategy development. And lastly, we have Ingrid of Inovalon. Ingrid is the Chief People Officer of Inovalon, a leading provider of cloud-based platforms empowering data-driven healthcare. She is responsible for all aspects of the building, developing, maintaining, and engaging, supporting Inovalon's exceptional team. Now that I got all that out of the way, with the diversity of members that is being represented here in the panel, what I thought would be important that we could start off with is to give each of our panel members their perspective, their own personal perspective as well as their corporate perspective, what supplier diversity means. And I thought that maybe we can start with Ingrid. As someone at the highest level of the C-suite and that regularly of a multi-billion-dollar healthcare technology company, what does supplier diversity mean to you, and what trends do you see you are noticing from corporate America and the leadership you regularly interact with?
So supplier diversity is quite simply part of our broader ecosystem around diversity and inclusion, which is all important to us because we believe that it supplies us, it creates a competitive advantage for us. So we strongly believe that all things diversity and inclusion are key to business results. And supplier diversity is part of the ecosystem we have around diversity and inclusion, around our talent, our culture, and also our sustainability and environmental efforts that we make within the company. So it's part of really our larger and broader ecosystem in order to make sure that we are availing ourselves of every advantage we can get, whether it be being inclusive of all the talent that's out there, being inclusive of all of the businesses and suppliers that are out there, and availing ourselves of that as a business. We believe that we can't be the best in the business and the best in our industry without inclusion and diversity across all aspects.
You know, it's interesting, and I want to encourage Ashley and Yuri to chime in at any time because I want this to be as fluid and conversational as we discussed earlier, that there's no script to any of this because you guys are the thought leaders here, and we have a lot of people being represented here, from small businesses to corporate leaders with big companies that are here in our audience that are listening. And one of the questions that's burning on the minds of many people is that they hear a lot of corporate diversity being discussed in the media, that's being discussed everywhere. And so I'd like to just hear what everyone's thought is why is it so important that we embrace this as a culture here?
Yeah, so I'll chime in a little bit here. You know, my perspective and my company's perspective, Booz Allen, is that, you know, diversity is also diversity in thought. And so by that, we mean that if we can bring on different cultural personalities, it could broaden our perspective to solve our clients' problems, our world problems. And so, you know, Booz Allen has always been small business friendly. We've always had diversity in our, especially in our leadership. You know, our CEO is Hispanic American, like myself, and our CFO is African American. And half of our corporate leadership are women. So that's always been, I guess, the attraction to Booz Allen, because we do prove that we are diverse. Now we want to kind of expand that into our communities. So we're looking at underrepresented groups. So, and we're looking at those individuals in our community. And we are building a method, and it is going to be a holistic collaboration between a lot of different groups within the company. So what I mean by that is we're holding our account leadership accountable. We're trying to come up with certain metrics on how we're going to capture that information. And we're also including everybody in global supply chain to really assess our suppliers and our subcontractors and see where else we can expand in our categories.
Since you're talking, Yuri, you know, as someone, I know that you regularly interact with small business and D&I companies and promotes that, and I know that in our discussions we've had in the past, your role in doing a lot of government contracting, maybe you can give the audience here that are listening and also online your perspective on what supplier diversity is and what it means in terms of your leadership and your role within your firm.
Yeah, so I mean, I love supporting the small business community, and we attend a lot of outreach events such as this one, and to us, supplier diversity is, you know, not just about choosing you because of your ethnicity, your age, socioeconomic status. We also like to work with companies, and we consider you a supplier, a diverse supplier, if you're adopting our mission of DE&I. And we like for you to demonstrate how is your workforce diverse as well. And we like to be in line with companies that share our values in that aspect.
What's interesting, as you were talking about that, it got me to thinking, particularly when you said it's not just giving opportunities to diverse individuals. I think you were kind of referring to perhaps what supplier diversity is not. And Ashley, if I'm being equal here and giving everyone the opportunity to speak on the subject, Ashley, I wonder maybe if you can perhaps give me your perspective, in your role, in your capacity for one of the largest bank in the country here with PNC services, your perspective, and perhaps even touch upon what Yuri was talking about. What is, supplier diversity not, and then as well as your own perspective, what it means to you and your company.
Thank you, Q. And from my personal perspective, we do a lot of trainings internally at PNC. I'm mixing professional and personal here, but I always like to start it off with a personal anecdote because we're a company of 60,000 plus employees. So we meet with some people that know exactly what supplier diversity is, what we do, our mission. And then there's other people, business partners that have never heard the term before. So I always like to, equate it that, and this is true, that on the weekends, my absolute favorite place to go to grab breakfast is a small 10-table diner. It's just a few miles up the road from where I live. It's owned by a husband and wife. The husband's a veteran. Their daughter waits tables, and I feel good about spending my money there. But even more so than that, I know that my dollar is going to have a bigger impact at that diner rather than a large national chain. And secondly, and maybe even more importantly, is that it's an excellent experience every single time. They have phenomenal food. They have phenomenal service. And that's exactly what we want to achieve with supplier diversity on a corporate level. So whether it's, a breakfast sandwich or translation software for our ATMs, we want to be intentional about what our dollars are supporting. And then also, recognizing the importance and economic power of spending within our local communities. So to build on that a little bit about, PNC as a company, our philosophy, it's just that. It's being proactive, being intentional. We're a financial organization, so we want to help our customers be financially stable, be financially independent, offer products and services. And what better way to do that than for us to be financially supporting the businesses where we work, where we live, where our branches are. It makes perfect sense from, a D&I perspective, but also from a bottom line perspective. And then to share a little bit about what supplier diversity is not, I would say, just as Yuri had spoken to, that it is not a handout or a free award to a business for a contract. That I'd almost argue the opposite. We have to fight some preconceived notions that small and diverse businesses might not be able to support a company of PNC size, that they might not have the offering. So it's almost, sometimes it can be even more difficult to have these companies participate in opportunities just to get them a chance to show, you're even going to have a better experience with the smaller diverse owned business than one of our, potentially one of our massive providers.
I think it's interesting that you bring that up. As you're talking, it just brings to my mind that, one of the things that I think is important to understand is that this supplier diversity initiatives across globally is not something that we're just doing as a feel-good. It's actually good for business. And so I wonder, Ingrid, from your standpoint and your perspective in your seat there, Perhaps you can maybe expound on that a little bit further for the audience here, what that means.
I'm sorry, I didn't get
from your
part of the question.
perspective, I think what Ashley brought up in some of the topics that as she was talking is that, supplier, in her own personal experience where she's going to the diner, she's a consumer in that story as she's describing.
Yeah.
It's good for business to be able to be in the supplier diversity. And so corporate America has embraced this. I mean, largely the government entities have embraced it for a long time. And I see the trend sort of changing and the tides churning in corporate America, where they're finally talking about, hey, what are some programs, what are some successful programs we're trying to initiate so that we can, spread the wealth to particularly the community of need and to be able to provide opportunities. And we have here in this Asian American Business Summit companies that are looking for opportunities from companies of your nature. How is it good for business? And from your perspective, I think maybe perhaps sharing a little thoughts about what it means and why is it good for business, maybe encouraging for the individuals here that are listening online, especially also as well as in person.
Well, I tell you that one of the things that we're seeing is that investors are very interested in this aspect. And I don't know if you've picked up on that trend as well, but investors actually want to know, what is your company doing in terms of availing itself of all of the opportunities that come out of diverse suppliers, diverse talent, in community engagement, all of those more sort of ecological in nature initiatives are now being valued even in the investor community. And so that is one obvious benefit for your business, that investors are interested in that. In terms of how we run the business day to day, one way that I see is that by availing ourselves, for example, it's very difficult in the technology sector to, you're competing for talent with everybody, right? There is a war for talent out there in the technology space and probably in every other space. And you want to try to get the best talent, and you want to try to get diverse talent because, as everyone here has already mentioned, that brings perspective, that brings diversity of thought, that brings more talent to the table, it brings innovation, and that's what you want to go for. So what we do in the talent space is we avail ourselves of talent agencies that specialize, that are owned by diverse ownership, that are specialized in attracting diverse talent. That's one of the types of suppliers that we use to broaden our diversity of talent in the company and attract talent that is difficult to get to and that is scarce in nature. So that is one of the ways that we benefit the business through the supplier program for diversity. We get diversity of talent, which benefits the business. So it's sort of a virtuous circle if you look at it that way.
Excellent, Ingrid. I wonder if we can just kind of switch gears just slightly as we meander in these discussions about, supplier diversity. We're talking about from a global perspective, what this means from a philosophical perspective, what it means to personally, as well as corporately speaking. But as we get down to brass taxes, some of the questions that I am sort of speaking on behalf of our constituency here that are being represented in the audience, that may be more tangible, more tactical is what are some of the things, and I'll just leave it up open for you guys to kind of chime in here. What are some of the things you guys are doing in your own organization in keeping diverse suppliers informed of the business opportunities within your group? So I'll leave the floor open and you guys can chime in there.
So we engage with a whole host of organizations and supplier organizations that we invite to bid, and that we actually set goals around how much of our spend we minimum want to have go through suppliers of diverse nature. And those are, we've actually this year already exceeded what our targets were in Q3. So we're going to do way better than our supplier targets this year. And I would love to hear some more ideas from my fellow panelists around other and better ways to really engage with a broader set of suppliers.
So Ingrid, I wonder if you can just share what type of services are you, or do you, if you have any stats that may be informative for the audience here.
Oh, the stats?
No, just what type of work? Is it in the IT field? Is it in like, what type of field are you sort of seeing as you're spreading the wealth within the diverse supply chain there?
Oh, we avail ourselves of diversity in suppliers across all of the areas. So whether it be technology, whether it be talent, whether it be services of any kind. So we, because we have quite a few different lines of business, and so there's quite a broad set of both goods and services that we go out to bid for.
Ashley, Yuri?
I guess, well, what I want to talk about too is, what are we doing to inform our small business community about the type of opportunities we may have here. My team doesn't necessarily engage in that way. However, at a corporate level, we're trying to engage more with different regional and national organizations. So for example, the National Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, it's the LBGT plus community commerce business. They're more on the commercial side, and we're trying to engage with them more and attend a couple of their webinars and speak, to the services that we're specifically looking at. So, and what I mean by that is, anything that involves cybersecurity, acquisitions and program management, and trying to see like where those services are within, the providers within that community. So it's more of that, of us participating in events, rather than, us hosting events. But we do plan on hosting more events, because that's part of the supplier diversity program that's undergoing development right now.
So Ashley, in your role in the supply management division there within your organization, what are the things are you guys doing, PNC Bank specifically, that are giving, informing business opportunities for potential prospect companies that may be represented in our group here today?
Absolutely, and I'm excited to speak to it because, over the last year, we try to have as many avenues as we can, right? So we have a supplier portal where we encourage small and diverse businesses to register. We put surveys through there, so we can survey 1,000, interested parties and say, can you do this? Can you provide it at this capacity, regionally, nationally? So that really helps us gauge who the capable businesses might be. We also have a supplier mailbox. It's dedicated to fielding questions from potential diverse businesses, directing them, getting them to maybe someone that they need to talk to in supply chain. And, we guarantee that they'll hear back from us within 24 hours of that. We're working to link our website across different functions of the bank. So for instance, we have a minority business bank page. Well, those businesses also might be small businesses. We need to make sure that they have those resources readily available if they're looking for them as well. And then also suppliers, they're interested in being a vendor, being able to get all the information that they need in as few clicks as possible. And then I started to say before I got, my thoughts led me astray, is that this year we've really tried to do something a little bit different in really looking at it from a holistic view. So we would absolutely love to work with every small and diverse business that's interested. And obviously that's not possible, but recognizing that an opportunity, it might not be in the form of a contract. As I mentioned, we have financial products and services. There's mentor programs, guidance and education and advocacy, a lot of different ways that we can help small and diverse businesses, and that isn't always in the form of a contract in terms of an opportunity.
Any suggestions and advice that you might offer to companies?
Well, no, go ahead.
My suggestion would be that, a lot of these large prime contractors, as most people in the audience would know, have these small business registration portals. And, they're great tools for the company, and they're great tools for the employees of that company. But I would say, take that first step out of the way. And when you contact someone from the small business office or supplier diversity office, you can get that out of the way and bring 2 to 3 opportunities that you have already identified. Because the more specific information you bring to us, the more help we can give you, the faster turnaround we can give you, and really hold these important discussions on what would be the next steps. So if you're looking at a certain market or a client or even a bid that you're tracking, that kind of information will lead to more conversations with the appropriate POCs. And it's in the beginning, it's all about networking and making your company known, increasing your reputation within the company. So anything that can get you to that point is better for you and for us.
Ingrid, I think you had something to say there.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think, so many companies today have ESG reports out there for suppliers to look at and see if there's a diverse supplier program in place. And then maybe proactively go after, engaging with those companies that are, that have goals around supply diversity and have, a policy set around it and have a proactive program around it and help those businesses engage with you.
Ashley, did you have anything? By the way, as I'm looking at myself, I was paying attention to you guys, but I see that I have a digital twin behind me. It's a little distracting, so I do apologize for that. But Ashley, do you have anything to add to that there?
Sure. So just thinking about, in terms of, and of course I'm losing my train of thought here as you're sharing about your twin. Help redirect me as to where now I'm seeing.
Didn't mean to distract you there. Sorry. It was
that's my fault.
So the question that I was having was what advice you might give and offer to companies out there perhaps wanting to do business with PNC.
Yes, thank you. And ironically, one of the things I was prepared to speak to was being focused, which I'm lacking today. As Yuri spoke to, coming with 2 or 3 ideas and focusing your efforts on where you can differentiate yourself. But it's hard for me to relay a company's capability if there's 10 to 15 things that they can offer. Obviously, that is excellent, but that's a hard story for me to be able to repeat and have conviction in, because I'm an expert in all of those things. So focus. And then the other thing that I would share is, at its core, thinking about things that supply chains are probably trying to do. So they're always trying to cut costs, and they're trying to reduce the number of suppliers. So if you have any studies of ways that you've helped companies achieve that, or, again, not being a jack of all trades, but, if maybe a company, PNC is maybe using 2 vendors for something, both of those things, that is a huge sell and a huge efficiency in our supply chain that we want to take advantage of.
Yeah, sometimes I agree with that. Sometimes you don't have to provide this lengthy one-page cram with a bunch of stuff capability statement. You can just provide 2 success stories with 2 big clients, and that's enough to get people within the company interested.
Do you guys have a certification process that's embedded in your organization, or do you follow sort of the government certification process? It's interesting, as I was doing a little bit of research, and I'm not an expert, I might have stayed at Holiday Inn, but I'm not an expert on this subject, but one of the things that I have noticed is the trend that is occurring in corporate America, where they're incorporating their own set of certification process and governance process. So I'm just wondering, particularly from the PNC and Inovalon's perspective, is there something that you guys are doing within your organization or trend that you're noticing that perhaps you're considering as an organization with certifying minority-owned businesses that will allow you to get your own list of vendors that you can sort of tap into for future opportunities?
For us at Booz Allen, it's not so much about certifications. It's more about having because we already track the standard federal small business categories that we're required to capture, right? So the women-owned, the small business disadvantage of the world, like we already have enough information on that. For us is how do we capture the other categories that are trending? So by that I mean, your racial background, your disabilities, regional ones that it's very hard for us to capture. So we're focused on capturing those categories within Booz Allen. And we're trying to come up with the best method to do that.
And I can certainly agree with you, Yuri, that I think, as we're looking to track more things and have more information, that sometimes it's difficult, right? Because a business might be certified as a minority business, but it might not, advertise that it's an Asian American owned business or an African American owned business. We really want to make sure, that we're supporting, different aspects of the community in a balanced way, right? That we're supporting all underserved businesses. And so while PNC, we don't have a certification program that we're certifying ourselves. That being said, we do have corporate sponsorships to the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, the U.S. Pan American Chamber of Commerce. And those sponsorships, we can get the lists of their certified suppliers, and search their portal databases, and really leverage their expertise in what they do. And then I will add that PNC doesn't require a third-party certification to work with us. We do allow self-certification. So filling out an affidavit saying, I am who I say I am, my company is who I say it is, and we can work going that route as well.
Yeah, Ashley, it sounds like our companies are doing just about the same thing.
So I know that we're winding. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Ingrid.
we also don't have a certification process at the moment, and I'm learning from my esteemed colleagues what I might go back and look at. So thank you for your input.
Sure.
Of course.
So I know we're almost about time. We have about 10 minutes, and so I did wanted to give opportunities here for the audience to perhaps even ask those burning questions that are on your mind. I'm sure there are some. If you do, please feel free to ask them. And hold on, I'm getting a cue from Richie here that we do have some questions that's been
Hello,
submitted
Q.
online.
So just one question for the panel, I think for all of them. Local contacts for your companies in the greater Washington area or in Virginia, because our majority of our small businesses and contractors here that attended the events are all here in Maryland, DC, Virginia.
Yes. Were you able to hear that question there? Fantastic.
Yes. So we're headquartered in Bowie, Maryland, and I can supply. Would you like me to supply it to the organizers after, and they can distribute it to you? But I can absolutely supply a direct contact to our procurement.
Any questions here from the audience?
Oh, to answer the question, the small business office services everyone within the firm, all of our accounts, all 27,000 employees. So we are the main contact, and you can reach us at smallbusinessoffice@bah.com.
And then Ashley?
I wanted to tease Richie a little bit and ask if this was his submission as a question, because he is local to your area and is an excellent, phenomenal PNC contact. So I don't want to overload Richie, but he is an expert in is our right-hand guy and can certainly get you where you need to go. And if you want to reach out to our supplier diversity team directly, we cover, our national footprint, and that mailbox is supplierdiversity@pnc.com.
I knew there was definitely a conspiracy there with the smirk on his face, but really appreciate everyone's time. And Ingrid dialing in from Frankfurt, Germany.
Yes, Frankfurt.
And so thank you. And Yuri, I know that you, with your circumstance, so I really appreciate you giving your time. And Ashley and Richie, you guys conspiring and trying to trip me up there. So I really appreciate that. So thank you so much for the opportunity. You guys been great, gracious, and very informative for the audience here. Can't thank you enough. So any lasting thoughts before we depart and say goodbye?
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you. This has been a terrific event, and I think that my lasting observation is that diversity and inclusion is as we move through the generations. I think that the ones that are coming into the workforce now, coming into being the investors now, coming into the economic power shifting towards a generation that really cares about this stuff. And we're, it's for the rest of us to keep up with, right? We really have to get after the subject because it is massively important going forward for business advantage and for business success. So thank you for facilitating this.
Thank you.
And I couldn't agree with you more or say it better, Ingrid. So thank you so much for the opportunity to join this panel with my esteemed colleagues.
Yuri wants to have a lasting remark here. I know that she's itching to say something. Go ahead. Nope, we're good.
I wanted to throw out a question, since we have a little bit of time, about employee resource groups. I work for Dominion Energy, and we have LGBTQ, African American, Asian Pacific Island, and also disability employee resource groups for people to identify with. How important are those in terms of diversity and attracting employees?
Hugely. And so, I mean, not only are we have over the past 2 years established 8 employee resource groups at Inovalon. We're immensely proud of them. And not only are they foundational to our efforts to become more inclusive and for people to feel like they belong at Inovalon and that they have a community there, they're really the foundational element of our whole diversity program. But in addition to that, they're like a flagship. So when investors come to me and ask, well, what are you doing on the people and talent front around the subject, that is when they pick up the pencil and start writing down when I'm listing out the employee resource groups. This is it's not just making it a better place for all of us to work in and for people across Inovalon, everyone who works there. It's also a competitive advantage because investors want to know, customers want to know, and customers want to face suppliers who look like them and who they can relate to. So hugely important.
I think it also speaks to retaining employees, because if employees feel comfortable and it can identify and have a safe place to be and allies, it makes it a very comfortable place. And do you think that's true?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a big retention element, that people feel like they belong, and that their voice is heard, and that they're part of a culture that includes them. Absolutely. Sorry, I stole the whole
it's great.
Answer. Please, Ashley and Yuri.
No, thank you. And I certainly couldn't agree more about the sense of belonging. And I've had the privilege of being able to go to a lot of different events that our employee resource groups have hosted. And in a way, while it's a place to, find similarities and come together, it's also a place to experience new things that, I try to go to various different employee resource groups events. And, personally, I'm not a veteran. I don't have any family that's a veteran. I learn a ton, when I go to their events, or I attend for our Asian American employee resource group of a very short film. And, that was certainly something that in my personal life, I probably would have never thought of, but it was an incredible experience and dialogue afterward, and broadened horizons too.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about, employee satisfaction. I mean, we have business resource groups as well at Booz Allen. And it's a great way to network with peers, to get mentorship and make those meaningful connections, and really also promote elevation in the workforce.
Great.
Well, thank you for asking those questions, Peggy. I appreciate it.
And Q, thank you. Any other questions out there?
I do have a digital twin. Some back there, maybe. No. I don't know what happened, but.
Well, I know you already thanked our panelists. I'll thank them again. Thank you all so much, and thank you, Q. Great job. Very, very good, energetic discussion, inspiring discussion. And we appreciate everyone joining us today. I want to invite our president and CEO of the Asian American Chamber of Commerce, Cindy Chow, to come up here and say a few words.
Whoop. Drop the mic.
Well, I know I'm between you and the reception. So just a few words. I just want to give a huge shout out to our awesome MC. I know Peggy Fox, also Annie Yu, co-MC today, for your awesome work and your support. Yeah. Also, all the wonderful speakers and moderators, and thank you for keeping us informed and educated on different topics. Just phenomenal speakers we have, and really appreciate your presence. And all the vendors and sponsors, please do take time to visit our sponsor table, also exhibitor table. So here list all the sponsors. Without their generous support, nothing could happen. So another shout out.
Videos on Facebook.
And the video we actually did live. It's ongoing on Facebook and also YouTube. So you can always check it out after the event. So now let's begin the networking reception. Feel free to grab a box outside and from our local Asian pastry. And we look forward to seeing you at the upcoming chamber events. If you are not a member yet, don't wait. It's a wonderful group here, because every day I just enjoy my time working with wonderful board members here. There's some of them. Could you just wave your hands? They have the heart to really support the community here. So during the pandemic time, nonstop, we never stop offering events and programs, because everyone wants to support the business, and this is a time businesses actually need lots of help. So we are there every month, quite some events going on. Also membership, we have fabulous members who really help to also bring new members. So we're growing and more business can benefit from each other. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. The networking session begins now.